chilly out today. And yes, we have a ton of animals around behind us and at the side. If we start looking around, here I'm just going to turn my rotation on so we can see a little bit. There we go. Got quite a lot of animals hanging out. I've got kittens. I've got goats and ducks and all the critters. We're having fun. I'm just making sure my audio is working. I'm just going to make sure that the audio is, yes, it is. Okay. And I'm putting my glove back on because it's cold out here today. But that's okay. We are okay with it being kind of cold. And I have kittens who just want to snuggle. So if you're hearing a lot of fighting over who gets to be on my lap, it's them. Anyway, welcome to Andersen Acres. I'm Leanne. I run a small hobby farm in central Canada where it's already frigidly cold, and we're lucky we don't have snow on the ground right now. So we're happy about that at least. Anyway, it's the first Friday of November, and that means we're kicking off the month with our weekly live stream rotation, and the first one is always Farm Talk. It's where we just hang out, chat about life on the farm, and answer any questions you might have. Pet a few kittens because they're cute. Kitten. That's what I've got all over my lap. So, yes, I have kittens literally all over me. I don't mind. I like kittens. So, we're going to answer questions. I have a list of questions that I have been putting together since last week when people were submitting a bunch of questions for this week, because a lot of people, I know a lot of you can't watch it live. A lot of you have to tune in later on, and that's completely fine. Nothing wrong with that. Hi, sweethearts. Nothing wrong with that. So if you do have questions you want me to answer in the live stream, but you can't attend live and ask them live in chat, that's okay. You can send them either as a comment anywhere on YouTube that my videos are. If you see a video, you can ask a question. And you can also send me questions on Facebook. I will try to message you directly back and answer your question, and I'll answer it live. So the questions can be about animals or homesteading, rural chaos in general. And let me tell you, chaos we have in abundance right now. So let's talk about it. The weather has been doing its best impression of a temperamental toddler lately. We've had windstorms and branches flying and tarps escaping. I think I even saw a chicken giving me a side eye, like I was personally responsible for the storms. We have a lot of trees down. We have to obviously clean them up, but we just keep getting more and more when it comes to trying to keep ahead of it. They just keep showing up. There's not much we can do about it. Hopefully that'll settle down soon. But that's fall on a farm, really. Unpredictable and messy and kind of wonderful if you don't mind holding onto your hat while the winds blow. It does not help that we are actually right next to a very large lake, and the winds coming off that lake can be absolutely insane. I'm just taking a look at, there's quite a few birds. I don't know if you can see them, but there's quite a few birds down that way. There's including our ducks are making a nuisance of themselves down the path. So I've got 4 kittens on me. I started with 2. Now I've got 4. Yes, you little chompers. Anyway, today I thought we'd talk about a few big topics that fit right into this time of year. We're going to chat about getting ready for winter, cleaning up after the chaos, dreaming about our next year goats and hoping that that pen will actually happen, and getting our barns all cozy for the cold months ahead. At the end, I've got those questions I talked about earlier. I do have them all put together. So if you're waiting for the questions, stick around till then. We will talk about them at the end. Yes, you guys are good. Those questions are about like farm life and baking and gardening, all things that involve hanging out with the animals and doing stuff. Hi. Yes, we got little stinker kitties. We got little stinker kitties. And, it's just good to be prepared. So we're going to talk about being prepared for the coming winter. I've only got 4 on me right now. We actually have 5 kittens. We had 6. One went to their home. So now I have 4 kittens on me. 1 kitten is walking off that way because she's got things to do. And I've got 2 boys and 2 girls on my lap. This is also a little boy. Isn't he pretty? I think so. Okay, so let's start today with the obvious. Winter is coming. If you live in Canada or the northern US, well, you don't just say that because you like Game of Thrones. You say it because you've seen what happens when you don't prepare. Right now, we're in that scramble stage of getting everything put away before the first real snow hits. The yard is a mix of we'll deal with it later, and we should have dealt with it already, but hopefully it'll all get done, okay? Every time we think we're close to being done, I find one more thing hiding. And that one more thing leads to another thing, and that leads to another thing, and that leads to another thing. So, the things hiding behind the barn that probably I should have spent the time cleaning them up instead of leaving them to freeze solid for 6 months. Yes, our winters are that long. It gets very, very cold here. So we've been trying to clean up the fallen branches and put away the hoses and stack up what's left of the firewood and make sure the animals' areas are ready for the cold nights ahead because it's going to get really cold. We get 40 below, and not just sometimes, okay? We get 40 below frequently enough that we need to be prepared for it. It's not just a, ooh, that was cold. It's a, ooh, this is going to be cold. So we do have to consider that. The ducks are pretty much suspicious of anything new. So right now they're hanging down there because they don't like the fact that I've been moving their stuff around. But I got to move their stuff around. I got to switch their stuff out so that they have their cold weather stuff and that they have their rubber feed pans so we can knock ice out of them. Otherwise, they're going to have frozen water all winter, and that's no good for anyone. So every time I drag something across the yard, they act like I'm personally trying to end civilization. And right now they're down there they're just ignoring me. The goat thinks I'm an obstacle course built just for her, especially when I am out here trying to actually get something accomplished. I've usually got a goat crawling all over me. That's fun. Hi, guys. And the chickens, well, they sit around and they judge you. You think they don't? They are. They're sitting there staring at you, judging you. Getting ready for winter is one of my favorite times on the farm. It's busy, yeah. But there's something satisfying about checking things off that mental list, and it's a heck of a list. Okay? But, you get the waterers cleaned, check mark. You get the heaters tested, check mark. You get the barns topped up with fresh straw, check mark. Rabbit pens scraped and filled with warm bedding, check mark. You feel really good about getting those things actually done. You can feel the seasons changing and everything starts to slow down a little bit. The days are shorter and there's this calmer rhythm to all of it. Now, think about how winter is for you. How do you get ready for winter? I'd love to know. Drop a comment. Let me know how you get ready for winter because around here, it's a lot of backbreaking work, but it's the kind that you're having to curl up by the fire at the end of the day. For us, the biggest challenge is always timing. There's a fine line between let's get things wrapped up before it snows and, oh no, it snowed. And somehow, no matter what year it is, we always seem to land on the wrong side of that line. So do not eat the microphone, little man. But it's one of those things. These little kittens are eating the microphone, so we have to make them stay down. They're good kittens. Like, look at this. Look at that kitten. Look at that. He's like, stop picking me up like that. Fine. You guys are good. So for us, it's always challenging because of the timing issue. Okay? And around here, we don't really know when that first snow is going to be. We've had years where we have snow in September, and we've had years where we don't have snow till December. The December snows are getting way more common in the last 10 years. When I was a kid, we always had snow in September, and now we often don't have snow till either the end of November or into December. And that gives us a little more time, to be honest, a little more time to get things buttoned up. We still seem to miss the mark every year. We still seem to miss that mark. So right now we are in the midst of trying to get things put away, wrapped up before before we get significant snow. We've had a couple of light flurries, but then it gets sunny during the day and it's mostly melted. I say mostly because there are a couple of spots in the trees where the sun hasn't hit that there is snow. So, moving on to our next topic, let's talk about cleanup, or as I like to call nature's revenge tour. We've had a couple of really nasty windstorms this fall, the kind that make you look out the window and think, yeah, I didn't need my shed roof anyway. Don't worry about it. It's kind of been an all hands on deck kind of thing, just trying to get the mess cleaned up. Branches everywhere, trees down, both little ones and fairly sizable ones. And a very interesting flip of a chicken coop. Sorry, it did get caught and it flipped. It's okay. It's tied down now. No one was in it. They were all fine. But yes, it did flip. The funny thing about farm cleanup is that it's never really done. You finish one section, turn around, and something else has fallen over. I swear the wind waits until you put the rake away before it waits for you to go inside and decide you're taking a break. And then all of a sudden it knocks down another tree. It's like a game of whack-a-mole, but with lumber. Love lumber. But honestly, it's part of what makes farm life so interesting. You never really know what you're going to wake up to after a storm. Sometimes it's frustrating, yeah. Other times, it's just downright comical. Like the time I found a feed bucket halfway across the pasture, and everyone, the chickens, the goat, everyone just staring at it like it's a UFO. You're like, what is this? You know what that is? That's your feed bucket, you little weirdos. Yes, you guys are little weirdos too. Yes, if you want a kitten. She's beautiful. They are cuddled on my lap. I've only got 4 here. There are 5. Yes, don't sit on the microphone though, okay? Can we just try not to? There are 5, but the 5th one is over on the deck, I think. I'm just going to readjust the microphone, guys, because you guys keep knocking it down. They do. They're adorable kittens, but they kind of get all over everything. We love them. We are keeping one of this litter. Not one of the boys. We're keeping one of the calico girls because she's adorable. So we are looking forward to that. Her name is Little Miss, also known as Doofus. I know. I have kids. I have kids. And so, oh, here she is. This one. That's Little Miss, also known as Doofus by my children. I call her Little Miss because Doofus sounds mean. But we are keeping this little one. She's my baby girl. She goes everywhere with me. She's also significantly smaller than her siblings. So I figured she's a good one to keep. Okay. Let's finish talking about cleanup. Because cleanup in the yard on a farm also means taking stock of what needs fixing before winter sets in. And that is not always an easy task. Fences and shelters and roofs. This time of year, you just want to make sure that everything's secure before the snow and ice actually come and test your handiwork, because that is what why are you grumbling? Yeah, we're grumbling. Sunlight ties the kittens like to grumble. But yeah, the weather will show up to test your handiwork at any moment. And we'll definitely be working on that over the next couple of weeks, but I have kind of accepted that we're probably not going to get it all done. That's just reality sometimes. You have to prioritize. We never really get it all done, and that's okay. The farm isn't a one-season project. It's an ongoing process. So when you are deciding, that's going to wreck my hair. That's great. But when you're deciding, it's really windy. When you're deciding what to tackle, you kind of have to make a priority list and know that you're not going to get to all of it. You never get to all of it because there's always something new to add. So you make a list in terms of what needs to be done now and what can wait. Yes, what can wait. Yes, you guys are good kittens. So that is one of the things we deal with all the time. And we also have a lot of storms here. Now, if you've ever lived through a good storm, you know what I mean about storms. So what's the weirdest thing that's ever blown across your yard in a storm? For us, it was an entire chicken coop. Because, yeah. That happens. More common are tarps that end up 20 feet up in the tree. But occasionally, entire buildings, you know what? You can't do that. But sometimes entire buildings if they're not properly anchored, or if the anchor's broke, which is what happened when our chicken coop rolled. The anchor's broke. So sometimes you just have to deal with it as it happens, and it happens more frequently than I like to think about. So I did want to. People have been asking me about goats. I'm looking at the ducks. They're pretty far down. Ducks, way at the end. You probably can't see them well on camera because they're way down there, like right where you can almost not see them because the path turns. Anyway, people have been asking about goats, and am I getting more goats? And the answer is absolutely. In fact, Arwen is over here right now. Absolutely, we're getting more goats, 100%. We've been talking around here about getting back into breeding goats. So we need to build a good pen for that, because Arwen is kind of a special case. She does not need a pen. She just wanders around willy-nilly. Most goats, you're not going to have that kind of luck. So we are going to need a good pen, a proper one, the kind that actually stands up to goat logic, which is to say they can't escape out of. And that's just not practically possible. Goats can and will escape out of almost anything. Okay? Just so you know, they can and do escape out of almost anything. So for anyone who's had goats, you know what I mean. If there's a weak spot, they're going to find it. If there's a latch, they're going to open it. If there's a surface, they're going to climb it. Okay? That's just the way it is. And if there's a human nearby, they're going to judge your carpentry skills. They're going to let you know that your skills were not good enough, and they're out again. That's goat life, right? And this on my lap is kitten life. Yeah. So right now we're just in the planning stages. I want something that gives them space to move around and play, because goats really do love to get out and explore. They love to climb. They love to get to know new areas. But I also want to keep them secure and easy to manage when kidding season eventually rolls around. I used to breed goats a long time ago. We have had babies in the past, and I do miss it. Now, I do need to pen built, and then I have to acquire my goats. I'm looking for babies. I don't want to buy adults because I don't like taking something on that someone else might not have raised the way I want it raised. So I like to get babies and make sure I raise them up the way I want, which means a male and female pair at least, maybe 2 females, depending. So we definitely have to think about the pen. I'm only going to get 1 buck, 1 unneutered boy, unfixed boy. I'm going to get a wether though as well, which is, or keep a baby. But a wether is basically a castrated boy. So he won't be able to make babies, but he can be companionship for the buck. I don't need more than 1 buck. 1 good buck is all I'm going to need. And they live long lives. Like you're looking 10, 12, 14 years for a goat. And males are pretty spry. We have ducks marching down the path. So I love when the ducks march back. Hi, guys. Hi. Yeah, hi. Hi, guys. Oops, did you fall? Well, that's because you got a stick on your leg. I'm going to have to come fix your stick. That duck has a stick. That duck has a stick. So now we have the ducks back here, which is nice. We do have a duck with a stick on her leg, so we're going to have to address that. That's okay. But I do want at least 1 female, but probably 2, because when you separate them, I don't want her to be alone. People have asked if we're going to breed Arwen. Up in the air. She is a quality goat. She is a purebred registered myotonic or fainting goat. So possibly, but we haven't quite decided there. I do know that I miss breeding goats. There's something joyful about having little goat kids bouncing around in the spring. It's like instant serotonin. So I definitely want to do that. And we'll be getting back into it hopefully next year if everything lines up. I'm thinking of expanding with some real great does, but I want to acquire them as babies again, like I said. And I'm just not sure. I want to milk goats. I want the milk from the mamas. I'm just not sure how many. Like, for my own use, if I'm just making cheese, which is what I want the goat milk for, goat milk cheese is fantastic. So if I'm just going to make cheese out of it, well, I don't need a ton of goats because a little goes a long way, especially with the higher milk fat of goats. And I would sell the babies, most of them, keep a couple girls, and then eventually get them a boyfriend. Obviously, the thing you do not do with goats, you do not breed close relatives. They can't handle that. Okay, so you have to be aware of that going in. If you keep girls, you're going to need a fresh boy. I don't want to rent a buck, the rent a buck thing where you borrow a buck for a few weeks to get your girls pregnant. I don't want to do that. For me, it's not worth the risk of disease. I test every animal here. Every single animal, if there's a test available, they've had it, just to make sure nobody is sick. So even though we don't breed Arwen, she's fully tested, she is clean. So I don't want, here's the thing, people lie. People will tell you their herd is clean and then they can't find the paperwork when you're looking for it. Hi, sweetie. Hi. Yeah. Yes, we're talking about you. So I don't want to risk introducing disease that's not already present on our farm. So I will not be doing the rent-a-buck thing. And I'm not letting my ladies go somewhere else to get bread. We will have our own bucks on the property. If you're looking to get into goats, know that bucks really smell, okay? They stink. They absolutely stink. So do not have them too close to your house, right? Do not put your goat pen for your boys right next to your house. Have them off a little ways, like we're talking that end of the property. There's a nice treat area there I would like to fence in. And you might not want to hang out with them all day, every day. They stink when they're in rut. And for our breed goat, that would mostly be in the fall. Just know that they stink. And goats are really social animals. They need companionship and structure, which makes them both endearing and exasperating. But you can't get one buck and stick him by himself in a pen. He either needs to run with your ladies or he needs a couple of wethers or something for friendship. They're not good completely alone. Arwen's fine as a single goat because she has Shadowfax and us and the dogs, and she's not alone. If you're going to have an animal like a goat that is so social in a pen, they need friends, okay? Just make sure they do have friends. They are clever and they're expressive and they're full of personality, and they absolutely need friends. Yes. Yes, you're such good kittens. Yes, sweetheart. They are. They're very good kittens. Okay. So one of the other farm tasks is refreshing bedding in the barns. And this is actually a big one because you got to remove all the old bedding. You got to just rip it all out of there and you got to replace it. Now, there's nothing quite like the smell of clean straw or fresh shavings or whatever you use in the barn. You rake everything out, replace it with new material, and for about 10 glorious minutes, everything feels pristine. Then the animals walk in and undo all your hard work, because why not? That's farm life. That's just the way it goes. Yes, it is. Yes. I've got kittens. Many kittens. Yeah, you guys are beautiful. So this time of year, we switch to a lot of deeper bedding layers. So we use mostly sand. We leave the sand through the winter, but we top it with paper bedding and shavings. I don't like straw. Straw smells and it's heavy and I hate cleaning it out. We don't use the deep litter method here. I know some people do. We absolutely do not. And the reason we do not is very simple. It doesn't work here. 40 below, things freeze solid. Okay, like solid. So we don't use the deep litter method here. Instead, what we do is just try to keep the barn as clean as we can all winter long. Yes, we go through a lot of bedding because we need to keep them warm and not wet. So we have to make sure the bedding's not wet. We go through a lot of bedding. It's worth it for their comfort. Okay. And that extra deep layer of bedding that we use helps insulate them and keep them warm in the winter because 40 below. Yeah. 40 below, sometimes for weeks at a time. You have to worry about keeping them warm. We don't use heat in the barns because, one, I don't want the temperature difference to be so drastic that Shadowfax gets sick. He is sensitive to drastic temperature changes. But also, we live in a very humid area, and in the winter, that humidity freezes, right? It's all locked in, but it still exists. So if we put heat in the barn, what ends up happening is everything starts to melt and get kind of gooey. and that adds humidity. And the thing that gives your chickens frostbite isn't the cold, it's the humidity. So if there's moisture in the air and then that moisture starts to freeze, your chickens have frostbite. So we make sure we don't have frostbite by making sure we don't warm up the barn. We don't want it warm. Hi. Hi. I know. Kittens are the best. Kittens are the best. I want all the kittens. I know. You guys are sweet. This is a little boy, this one cuddling up to me right now. That's a little boy. Yes, you are a little boy. You are a little boy. I know. They are fantastic kittens. The one I'm keeping is down here on my legs, taking a nap because we are keeping her. So I want to transition into the questions that I have received over the last week or so and put them together in my e-reader here. I put all the questions in here so I can read them because I'm never going to remember them all. No, I'm not. It's never going to happen. No. Hi, sweetie. And this one's a girl. I've got a little boy and a little girl. Yes. Hi. I know. I know. Oh, dear. Okay, we're going to have to attach yourself to my hood, apparently. That works. Little baby claws. They get attached to things. Hi. All right. So, questions. What about cats? That could be a question all in itself. What's the most rewarding thing about living on a hobby farm? It's probably the feeling of connection. Okay, the feeling of connection to the land and to the animals and to the seasons. Even on hard days, I wouldn't trade it for anything. These guys, just the kittens alone, just the kittens, they are the light of my life, right? Even if all we had were the kittens, they would still be the light of my life. So I think it's the connection. You're reminded just how much nature can do when you've got all these little guys crawling all over you. Do you have a daily routine or is it different every day? A little bit of both, really. The feeding and care routines stay pretty consistent, but some days are goat days and other days are duck days, and some days it's chase the chicken coop that's rolling across the yard in the heavy winds days, and sometimes it's the yard is flooding, get the sandbags, it won't stop raining, or if we have overland flooding for whatever reason. So it kind of depends. You have some consistency, but you really have to be ready to be flexible. Like, oh no, the goats are out again. You have to be flexible. How do you balance fun projects with the chores and have it get done? I try to sneak in the fun farm projects. I try not to have only the annoying stuff going on at once because that's no fun, right? So I try to also give myself little rewards, kind of like if I can finish cleaning the barn, I can start sketching out the new goat pen. But this takes priority. I can't do that till I do this. So kind of giving yourself little rewards that mean something to you. You're basically bribing yourself. Like, I promise I can sit down and hang out with and think about my goat pen and decide how I want to set it up, what materials I want to use. I can fantasize about that for a little while, but first I got to do this. So that works pretty well. What advice would you give someone thinking about starting a small farm? Start smaller than you think you should. That's always my advice. Learn as you go, add one thing at a time. So when you first start, don't do chickens and goats and pigs and cows and a horse and 3 acres of gardens. Don't do that. Pick one thing. You've wanted chickens your whole life? Just get chickens. Live with that for a year. Then you're like, actually, I kind of would like to add ducks. Okay, add ducks. Live with that for a year. Go really slow. There's no reason to rush. Okay, there really isn't a need to rush. You can just take your time, one thing at a time. If you move too quickly, you will bite off more than you can chew. The number of people who have bitten off more than they can chew is a little ridiculous. So go slow, one thing at a time. What's one mistake you made early on that taught you a big lesson? I underestimated how quickly goats would escape. So there's no such thing as a truly goat-proof pen. They will eventually escape from every pen. I underestimated how quickly they would do it with the setup I built. So You learn as you go. You learn kind of quickly what you need to keep them contained for at least a few days. Okay. How do you manage chores in bad weather? A lot of layers. A lot of layers. Grit, determination, and stubbornness. I also make sure that the paths that we need to walk on are clear before snow comes, so that when that new snow comes, it's not new snow on top of old snow, because that new snow turns the old snow to ice. So the trick is being prepared for bad weather, like making sure your paths are shoveled, making sure you have moved hay to where you wanted it before the snow comes. And are we always successful? No, but we try to stay ahead of it. What farm tool could you not live? Either my multi-tool, because the number of times you need something to cut something, like a string or something, is ridiculous, and you never have one, so my multi-tool lives in my pocket, or my wheelbarrow. Both of those things get the most use, and not having them would be absolutely insane. How do you stay organized when there's so much to do? Lists. You make a million lists, and then you lose those lists, and you make new lists, and it becomes a whole system. You got to lose your lists at least 3 times before you have a final list. That's just the rule. I don't make the rules. How has farm life changed your view of food or nature? So I always grew up in a farming community, so it didn't change it that much. But it did make me appreciate how much work goes into everything that is on your table. Every time you eat a slice of bread, that's a lot of work. So someone had to do to make that bread. Every time you cook an egg for breakfast, every time you throw a rotisserie chicken on the fire, it makes you value the amount of time that takes once you've had to do stuff like that yourself. Once you've spent 3 hours baking bread, you'll understand and appreciate when there's bread on your table because it's so much work. Hi, sweethearts. Yes, these are my sweethearts. Yeah. Which animal on the farm gives you the most laughs? Probably these kittens. This is a funny letter. Like, they're hilarious. Okay, they're absolutely hilarious, and I adore them. After that, probably the ducks or Shadowfax. Shadowfax, the mini horse, he is constantly removing pieces of his own pen, and then he wanders around the yard, and it's hilarious to watch. Could we construct a pen that he couldn't get out of? Yeah. Would that be half as funny? No. So, but the ducks also, they're tiny little chaos goblins with feathers. So I love the ducks. They're laying over here. Let's see if I can see them. Almost turn. There's a limit to how far I can turn that. So, yeah. Chickens. But, yeah, they're all hilarious. But kittens are something special. Yeah. Do all the animals get along, or do you have farm drama? Thank you. Okay, so the ducks have a thing or two to say. But do all the get along? Mostly. There's definitely some drama between certain animals at certain times. Ducks yell at everyone, as you could tell. Chickens seem to hold grudges and don't want to get off the deck. They just hang out on our deck a lot, especially on sunny days. They just kind of fall over on the deck and they love it. But for the most part, I know, sweetie, but you're falling. Okay. I know, but you're falling, hun. Okay, but you were falling. You were gonna fall. Okay. She grumbles. But yeah, they mostly get along. Every once in a while, somebody doesn't, but that's nature, right? We don't always get along with each other, so we can't expect animals to always get along with each other. How do you introduce new animals to the herd or flock? By quarantine. So we have animals quarantined, so we don't have to worry about it for like 30 days. After quarantine is over, we go slow if we need to. If it's a chicken, if I've brought some chickens, our chickens are really stupid. So this does not work for everybody. But what we do with the chickens is I chase everyone out of the barn. I put the new chickens in the barn, and then I chase everyone back into the barn, and then they don't even realize that the newcomers are new. Our chickens are kind of dumb. They're not smart. So with them, it doesn't matter. Of more concern is introducing them to the dogs, Tequila and Vodka, our livestock guardians, because they, hi, sweetie, They, if they are not familiar with an animal, will make it leave. They don't want animals they don't know amongst their herd, or their flock. So what we do is we make sure that anytime a new animal comes onto the property, the first ones to meet them are the dogs, and that they meet them with us right there. Hi. So that is one of the things we do. Hi. I know you guys are all great, and you're on the microphone. Thanks. That's great. I know. That's great. I know. Do you name all your animals? Yep. I do not ever want to have so many animals that I can't remember their names. That's too many for me. So they all have their own personality. Sometimes it takes me a while to come up with names, right? You'll look at an animal and be like, I just don't know what to call you yet. And it could take a while. But eventually everyone does get a name. And sometimes you know their names right away. Sometimes it takes a while. What's your favorite breed of goat, duck, or chicken, and why? For goat, I like fainting goats. Not because they're funny, not because they faint. Okay, that's not it. Even though, I mean, yeah, that's funny, but it's their personality. They are sweet and loving, and I just love fainters. I love the myotonics. They're wonderful. When it comes to ducks, it's definitely, they're wandering off again. But when it comes to ducks, it's definitely our cayugas. Okay? It's definitely our cayugas. Those are definitely the ones that are the favorite around here. They are friendly and funny and easy to look after, and we love them. For chickens, I'm partial to the silkies. I know they're crazy, and some people call them useless, but I love them. How do you keep your animals warm in the winter? Deep bedding, a lot of windbreaks, and really good nutrition. They can handle the cold better than people think. What's feeding time like on the farm? Controlled chaos. It's definitely controlled chaos. Everyone wants to be first, like it's a noisy buffet line. Do you raise animals for specific purposes? Yeah. Mostly we raise the chickens and the ducks for eggs and companionship. The rabbits are raised, they're primarily show rabbits. Some of them go for pets. Some of them we sell them as what's called seed stock. So people who want to start their own breeding programs, especially for meat rabbits, we have really good quality rabbits. So we see a sell for that as well. And when it comes to the kittens, they are raised to be barn kittens. So they are raised to be really good mousers. That's why they are out here so much, because they are raised to do a job. And the dogs are livestock guardians. So when we do have puppies, they are meant to do a job. They're bred to do a job. So yeah, there's usually a plan. Next question. I can't hit buttons. How do you handle predators? The dogs. Livestock guardian dogs every time. They're worth their weight in gold. Fencing helps, coops help, but nothing beats good dogs. My recommendation to people who are going to have animals, if you have a lot of predators in your area, get dogs. Livestock guardian dogs specifically. No, your lab's not good enough. I love you. I love labs, and we have a golden doodle ourselves. He's not a guard dog. So make sure that you have really great livestock guardian dogs. They don't have to be purebred. Like tequila is a Great Pyrenees mixed with an Anatolian. Vodka is just plain Great Pyrenees. So they don't have to be purebred, but if they're mixed with something, make sure they're mixed with livestock guardian breeds. Okay, so you don't want a German Shepherd Great Pyrenees cross. You want the Anatolian Shepherd Great Pyrenees cross. You want those instincts. Those instincts have been bred for hundreds of years, and they're just not going to come out of another type of dog. What's the biggest personality surprise you've had in an animal? One of our ducks cuddles, okay? One of our ducks crawls into our lap and cuddles, and that's not super common. So that's probably the biggest surprise. What crops do you grow most often? Tomatoes, because we make our own tomato sauce, so we need a lot of tomatoes. Potatoes, because they grow really well in our area, because we live in a cooler area and potatoes grow really well. Corn, because it's hardy as heck. And a lot of herbs. We grow other things like the squash, and we do. But primarily we grow the things that grow well in our area or that we use a lot of. How do you keep your garden going in unpredictable weather? Oh, there goes a kitten. Sorry, did you fall down? He did. Unpredictable weather sucks when it comes to gardening, and we get a lot of it. So we use a variety of techniques. We use raised beds for delicate plants so they don't get waterlogged, because we do get a lot of water at unexpected times. Um, we also put out our sprinklers and our automatic um, irrigation systems in dry weather, because sometimes we have wicked droughts, and so we have to be prepared for anything. The trick is to check the forecast and do your best guess. You do the best you can with what you've got. Any tips for beginning gardeners? Don't overthink it. Just plant something. Maybe it'll live, maybe it won't. You'll learn. Help the plants a little bit, but let them do the rest. If you want to plant some tomatoes, put some tomatoes in the ground. Learn which plants like frost and which plants do not, because some plants will do fine in a light frost and some of them will just die. So if you get frost in your area, make sure you know what your last frost date is, so you don't plant things that can't withstand a little bit of frost too early. Or plant them in the house and then transplant them later. What's your favorite thing to harvest? Tomatoes. I love the smell of a fresh tomato, first of all, but also I get excited because we're going to make our sauce, and I love our homemade sauce. Do you compost, and how? Yeah, we compost everything. We've got a horse and goats and chickens and ducks and rabbits, and we compost all of that. And basically, we just put it in a big pile. We don't overthink it. We put it in a big pile. We switch piles every year. When this pile looks like it's turned to dirt and doesn't look like poop anymore, then we pick it up, throw it on the garden. We don't overthink it. How do you handle pests naturally? The ducks. The ducks. In fact, I've got a duck here. Duck. Ducks. Okay. That's what we do. We use ducks. Okay. Ducks. Ducks, man. We use ducks. Yeah. But yeah, we use ducks primarily. They're really good at pest control. Also, the chickens are really good at getting ticks off the lawn, so we don't get a lot of ticks. That's really important because tick-borne diseases suck. Yes, meow. Do you grow anything indoors during winter? Our winters are really harsh, and it's getting windy again. Our winters are really, really harsh. So we grow like a few herbs and some microgreens, and I grow like a little bit of lettuce in the window. But generally, for us, winter's not the time to grow things. How do you preserve your garden produce? I prefer freezing or dehydrating. I don't love canning. I can some things. I do like preserves and things like that, but I don't love canned tomato sauce or anything like that. So whatever works and however you enjoy things, because if you do not like, for example, I don't like frozen tomato sauce, canned tomato sauce. I prefer it frozen. If you don't like it canned, don't can it. There are other preservation methods. Have you ever had a gardening disaster? Yes. I have had squash plants that are basically taking over the entire yard, especially down at that end, and we just kind of pretend they're not there. You add a few rotted squashes to your compost pile, and before you know it, boom, squash everywhere. Don't do that. What plants should beginners start with? Lettuce or herbs, they're really easy, okay, and they grow pretty quick. So they're fast, easy wins. They're not difficult to grow, and they're easy to harvest as well, and they don't require a lot of preserving. So, yeah, they're probably my recommendation if you haven't done a lot of gardening. What's your go-to comfort food? Fresh bread with butter. It's simple. It's timeless. I make my own bread. I make my own butter. It's fantastic. What's the hardest thing you've ever tried to bake? Macarons. I don't like the feet. Getting the feet right on them is not easy. So I don't love that, but it's fine. Do you prefer baking or cooking? Baking. I love bread. Like, bread is my favorite thing in the world. So baking always, because I can always bake bread. What's one pantry staple you always make from scratch? Bread. First of all, store-bought doesn't compare, okay? I don't care how good that store-bought bread is. It is better if you make it yourself. And I happen to love making bread. Not everyone has to make bread. If you hate making bread, you probably shouldn't. But I adore it. I can make bread all day and be really, really happy about it. How do you plan meals around what you produce? Seasonal eating. You think about what is going to be maturing next week. All right. Seasonal eating keeps it interesting. It's never boring with what's going on in the garden. And Google is your friend. Okay. Go to your favorite search engine, type in the ingredients you've got, and see what meal ideas are out there. We do live in the technological age. We can look these things up and get ideas that maybe we didn't have. That's one of the things I like to do so that we're not eating the same 9 things every week, because we do tend to get, everyone does it, right? We have these things we like to cook, and we cook those things so much that we don't really want to explore other things. So, yeah. What's your best tip for baking bread in cold weather? Rise your bread in your microwave, because yeah, it's cold. Okay, it is cold in the winter, and if you live in a really cold area and things are really dry and it's hard for things to rise, put them in the microwave. Close the door. That helps keep the warmth in, and it helps keep the humidity contained. So rise your breads in your microwave. I primarily use the microwave for rising breads. I rarely actually use the microwave. It's basically for rising my bread and melting butter. That's about it. Have you ever used farm ingredients creatively? I like to think I do. Over time, sometimes you just use what you have, and sometimes what you have means you have to get creative because you don't have an idea. So yeah, sometimes you do have to get creative with what you have. What's one skill every homesteader should know? Knife skills. I would say if you're going to do a lot of cooking, especially cooking from scratch, get good with the kitchen knife. It'll save you time, it'll save your fingers, it'll save frustration. There's some great YouTube tutorials on how to use a knife properly and to chop quickly. I really recommend people learn how to use a knife really well. We all think we know how to use a knife well, and then we see somebody else chop and we go, I could never do that. Yes, you can. I promise you can learn. There are so many great tutorials online these days. You can absolutely learn. Oh, we got a kitten falling. There you go, bud. But you can absolutely learn how to use a knife better than you do. I really recommend it. It'll save those fingers. Do you trade or share baked goods with your neighbors? Yes. Homesteading and hobby farming is a community effort. It is very unlikely that you're going to be able to do everything on your own. Not everyone is good at everything, right? I like to trade what I've got for what other people have, or I'll trade my goods for a service. So I can get hay delivered without cost if I trade a puppy, right? Or I trade a certain amount of bread. Or I can get it at a reduced cost depending on what I'm trading. So yes, the best way, the most successful way for hobby farming and homesteading to work is if it's a community effort. If people communicate and everyone embraces what they're really good at and acknowledges that they can't do everything. Yes, I've got a kitten grumbling. What's your favorite from scratch recipe for a cozy winter day? Either sticky buns or pumpkin pie. Depends what I've got in the cupboard. Or depends what I have in the freezer. If I remembered to take the pumpkin puree out of the freezer, then I'm making pumpkin pie. If I forgot, then I'll make sticky buns today and pumpkin pie tomorrow. So it depends. It depends what I have out of the freezer. I have to go. It turns out I have to go. Yes, it's ending rather abruptly. I just realized the time. That's why we're never here for very long on a Friday afternoon. I have other things I have to do. That is about it for me here today at Andersen Acres. If you want your question included next week, you can come live and drop your question, but most people watch it on the replay, and that's fine. Drop your question, either a YouTube video or find me on Facebook. I am easy to find on Facebook, and send me a question there. Just let me know you want it in the live stream, and I'll include it. That's where all these ones came from today, because there's no way I would have ever come up with enough questions or any decent questions. My questions would always be, tell us about the cats. And I'd be like, well, this is a cat. Yeah, I need questions. Anyway, I did want to show. So this is the kitten we're keeping. And this is her sister. And she is small. This is the keeper. Look at how small she is. Look at how she is so much smaller than her sister. There's a reason we're keeping her. She is so tiny. She's not growing like they are, and I don't rehome animals that are not 100% perfect. And I love her. Her name is Little Miss. My kids call her Doofus. That's because they're kids and they're annoying. Uh, but yeah, Little Miss is a keeper for now and forever because she's our little girl. So I did want to just show the size comparison. Anyway, yeah, find me on Facebook, find me in any video on YouTube, drop a comment, and I will endeavor to answer it. I will endeavor to answer your questions next week. But that is going to be about it for me today. Hopefully, we'll be back next week. We should, but in the kitchen, we'll do some baking. We'll see you tomorrow.